Get ready for the first episode where we tackle everything from fascinating stories of entrepreneurship, surviving the hiring trap that holds business owners back, the Moneyball way of building a team, and how your business can run like a sports team. Hey Gareth, I'm so excited we're having this chat today. I think I've known you for like over 15 years and it's the first time we're sitting down for a recorded chat.
Yes, feels very professional. And, 15 years of knowing each other from humble beginnings, basically coming in on a, what's it called, a vocational or from university?
Yeah, I think I had, I'd finished 2 years. I had a year to go and found Performia and here we are 15 years on.
So from washing dishes.
Oh no, I never did that part. I
But you
was not
delegated.
happy about that. Yeah, that's right. I started my managerial duties that young, I was like, this isn't for me. But you know what? I have no problem washing dishes now.
Yep.
It's just more like back then I was 19 and I was like, I've started a career here. I'm meant to be, advancing and you want me to wash dishes? What is it? Put IKEA furniture together? Yeah. But that's okay because it's a Swedish company. So, should have made sense. I should have expected from the start that IKEA will be involved.
But, interestingly, it's always been a bit of my method is to, when someone starts, give them a task that they wouldn't expect or that's, below them or odd, just to see how they react. And
did I pass?
Well, you did amazingly because I just thought it was done and 5 years later I found out you delegated it. So,
so effective.
Yeah. If Matt had come back he would and said, hey, Negar won't want to wash the dishes, you would have failed because you couldn't delegate.
I would have negotiated my way out of that too, I think.
Delegate up.
Yeah, that's right. I'm like,
Actually, come to think of it, you still delegate up.
Do I?
Yeah.
Delegate up, that must be a new term.
Yep.
What is that? What's delegate up?
Well, you're delegating tasks. You're the CEO, you're delegating tasks up to, technically I'm like a board member, you delegate tasks up to me.
Very efficient.
Yeah.
Damn, now you know my strategy. So before we officially dive into the full episode, I want to start with some rapid fire questions.
Yep.
So you got to be fast.
Okay.
Favorite day of the week?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I love all my days.
It's rapid fire, fast.
Probably Saturdays because it's my tinkering day.
Oh, I like it. Night owl or early bird?
Both.
You have to pick one.
Do
you ever sleep?
Yeah, I do. It's like I'm more of an early bird these days. I'm always awake and usually up around 5:30.
Favorite show?
Ooh, yeah, that changes regularly. So
I don't think you've answered any questions straight yet.
I haven't. I was like, maybe it's just because I enjoy so many things so much that favorites don't come into it so much. But I can get really interested in any show that comes on.
Okay. What's something you wished you'd known in your 20s?
I want to say this, I wish I'd known how to hire people and had a hiring strategy.
In your 20s, as early as 20s?
Absolutely, yeah, because, we'll talk about this a lot, obviously, but, was my major downfall from, having a major empire now, because I was putting people together and just would hire anyone, had this idea that I could make. In fact, I had an ideology that I wanted to be able to make any person be productive and have a great career. And I'm sure that ideology can be true, but not for what I was building in my 20s.
Interesting. Favorite quote? Or, okay, I'm going to change the word favorite because you don't like
No,
that.
I have a favorite quote.
Oh, okay.
So the one So the favorite quote is a Gandhi quote, which he says, if you have nothing worth dying for, then you have nothing worth living for.
I love that. What's the favorite place you've ever visited?
I love the snow and, so I'd have to say, probably be the Rocky Mountains, like in Colorado.
Beautiful. And what's a non-existent job that you wish was actually created?
I'd love to be in charge of, like, say, the unemployed, and in the sense of the social security system, and then have ways of being able to bring people into being productive and feeling much better. That they can get out and have the job they love and feel like they're contributing rather than feeling like they need to live off the government.
What do you think? I don't know, we're going off track, but kind of off my own questioning. But What do you think is the next closest to that job right now, if you don't think that exists?
Oh, that does exist?
Yeah.
Geez, I don't know. I mean, because that's, I think, one of the issues we have is like we have a say people that look after social security from the sense of making sure people have the financial means and those sorts of things. But I don't know that we really have positions exist where your job is to basically empower people to, have great careers.
That's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, and I could be totally wrong too. I don't know the industry so well. There could be people.
If you have a business out there that does this, please come and tell us.
Yeah, or they do it because it's like, and I'm sure I've seen things like Salvation Army and those sorts of groups. I'm sure are working hard to try and empower people to have those sort of things.
And I think there would definitely be individuals within organisations as well.
Yeah.
That within their capacity try and do their best to do those things. But if you have organisations totally focused on that, well, you can achieve so much more if your core purpose is that.
Yeah, and for me personally, and I feel like I've had an amazing life, and I think the big part.
So far.
Yeah. And the big part of my amazing life so far has been I've just always loved my work. And so I just feel like it's my duty for as much as possible to get people to like their work.
I love that. And when I said so far, by the way, I didn't mean it's going to get worse. I mean, like, you still have many years to go.
Yeah,
I realised I had sounded after I said it.
Yeah, maybe I'm only halfway through.
Exactly. That's what I like to think. What motivates you?
I'm always motivated. I'm people observe me as that I don't stop, and I don't really get tired. It's like, so I don't really think so much what motivates me, but I'm definitely always striving for improvement. I think my whole life is about just constantly improving every part of it wherever I can, and that's why I love to tinker and play with things and develop systems, and so I'm motivated for improvement.
That's pretty interesting, and that's what best practice is in business, at least. It's all about that, isn't it? How can we do that extra couple of percentage improvements to get even better and better?
Absolutely, and that's what makes work so interesting. I always set little targets everywhere, whether it's just to basically improve a bit of machinery and find a part. I'll find something worn out and then I can go and replace it, or it's like set margin or sales targets that are slightly higher or better, and just chip away at improving things. It gives a great game to play.
What's the most recent thing you improved?
Well, the most recent thing is obviously, I'm not just involved in Performia. I also have a business in construction, but, I found a crane truck really cheap, and then luckily I bought it and it needed to be fixed up because I love those sort of little projects. So that's the most recent thing that I've just basically taken and made really work well. And, and then I have a whole multitude of things we're trying to improve. You and I are trying to basically go through a whole bunch of programs in Performia and improve things. And then I'm about to start a service department in his construction business. So there's just always so many things to create with it.
Keeps it interesting, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Last question. Money or happiness?
Definitely happiness. I started work very early, and so full time. So I've always had more money than my friends around me. At 15, I was getting an apprentice wage, but that was still, infinitely more than my school friends. When I hit 19 years old, I was basically, earning the same money as probably a doctor 2 or 3 years out of their time, because, I was progressed in my career pretty quickly. I started my business at 22. By the time I was 25, I had already paid off my house. And so, I was really affluent. And then the interesting thing, though, was I hit 29, and because what I said earlier, I didn't know how to hire, and, we were growing to 150 people, but losing money. All of a sudden, I went to having no money. It's like the whole thing crashed around me, and we had to work really hard to make it survive. It's like, and then with no money, 2 children came along. But my life never changed. I still had the same happiness, and just because I couldn't buy the great, beautiful holiday, you would just substitute it for like going bush and camping. And so I've never found money to have any influence on how happy I am, but definitely having money and some reserves, it's a lot more relaxing. It's less stressful, but sometimes stress can keep you motivated and happy as well.
That's true. Never stop the challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you touched a little bit on this just now, but you've got a great story of entrepreneurship with the businesses you've built in your background. Can you share a bit about that? You know, don't want to start in 1950s, or just, just a summary of like, what your background is and what you've built.
So I was fortunate to be offered an apprenticeship when I was 15, and my parents didn't want me to leave school. I wanted to take the apprenticeship. Coincidentally, I got expelled from school, so I started my apprenticeship by default. And then, I didn't leave school because I wasn't academically doing well, but I was just a troublemaker. I was over school. I was ready to get out and do more. And it was either become an Air Force pilot or a tradesman. And then decided a tradesman, and there was too much work, it looked like, to basically get the sort of scores you need to be in the Air Force and be a pilot. But unfortunately, a year later, Top Gun came out, so I felt like I made the wrong decision. I wanted to be Tom Cruise, And then so I did an apprenticeship, but being very good at maths and science, I did really well at my trade school and topped out each year at Box Hill TAFE. I was very inquisitive to the point where I'd actually sometimes blow things up and break things, trying to experiment with them at work.
There comes that improvement thing.
Yeah. And but I turned 18 and I was just about fourth year apprentice, given a car. I was given $2 million projects to project manage. Through that time, I won Box Hill TAFE Apprentice of the Year. I was a finalist in the Victorian Apprentice of the Year. And then our company went from being quite small, about 10 people. 3 of them were the business owners. 2 of them were the business owners' sons. And then there's a few others. It was I didn't know at the time, but it was an unbelievably productive company. Mm-hmm. And I learnt later that what we were doing was probably equivalent to a 50-person company.
How many did you have?
10.
Oh, wow.
So it's like I didn't know that I'd learnt such amazing productivity skills from these people. Anyway, we got taken over by a larger company. It was 200-300 staff. In fact, we got taken over by a Sydney company, and then the next day, that company that took us over sold that group to another company.
Oh, wow.
And then the company changed a lot. So we had all these people come in, and then I started to learn how lazy people could be, how slow things were, how disorganized they could be, how people were actually destructive to their company. I had never seen that before. Did
you just start observing it for yourself, or did someone point it out?
No, I was just observing it for myself. I was working with, when you work with a tight-knit group of 10 really productive, like 10 absolute performers, 10 out of 10
You'd have
performers.
to be if you're producing this equivalent of a 50 person.
And they were the best. And I never knew this because it was my first experience working full time. I never knew what a team of what we were. And all of a sudden we went from 10 people to within a year there was 30 of us, and we were pretty much getting less done, with 30 people. And then we had all these political things happening, and a guy came from Sydney that I had to work with, and he would steal and lie on his timesheets and all sorts of stuff. And it was a whole total change. And interesting enough, about a year after that, they put a new state manager in, and we just didn't get along. This state manager was a person that basically faked his way into the job. Okay. But obviously working under him, I was a site manager, and I was seeing the mistakes he was making. I could see really quickly that he didn't know what he was doing, but faking it. And so How
did he fake it in? Like, you mean from job application, or like from...
He came from a really large company as a salesperson, and then got the job as the general manager in the state. Mm-hmm. And so, but when he came into the company, he pretended he had all these skills of, like, he had technical skill, he had quoting skills, had all these skills, but actually you could see working in a large company, there's probably people that would catch the drop balls, or he could fake it. But when you come in, and obviously I knew my trade, and I would basically go to draw down on, say, $50,000 of the items, and discover he'd actually never included them in the quote. And I would ring him and say, I have this technical issue, can you help me? And he'd go, oh, look, I'm busy, but do you want to come jet skiing? And so we started clashing, and he fired me eventually. And, not wrongly, because I was definitely insubordinate, but I feel like for the right reasons, because he was really incompetent, made my job hard. And I was, at the time, I actually had won the work skills competition as an apprentice. And I got sent to Sydney for the finals. And when I was in Sydney for the finals, the directors of the company took me out for dinner, got me drunk, and they go, oh, how's Graham? And so they all came out. I rode back to Melbourne, and he fired me. And
did he also get fired?
Well, interestingly enough, and you said don't make this a long story, it's getting really long. But interestingly enough, one of the shareholders, when they sold the business in Melbourne, the original owners became shareholders, and one of them was also a director. So when I got fired, he was my direct report, and he basically went to the board in Sydney and said, if you don't hit this guy back on, then I'm going to leave as well. And I caught up with him a little bit later and see, I didn't know actually how valuable I was. I'd never been told. I always worked pretty much either with that group of 10 top performers, or later on I had my own crew. And so I sat down with my direct report, his name was Pat, and he goes, I just want to let you know I'm going to resign if they don't put you back on.
Wow.
And I go,
that's like the best validation you can get as a team member.
Well, I didn't understand why, to be honest.
But good on him for realizing that.
But until he said, because I can't be expected to run my area if they take the guy out that does half the work.
Wow.
There were 6 other site managers. And so he's basically telling me I was doing half the work. And it was a big validation. And I was really upset. I actually went home and cried after I got fired. And then I was living with this girl, not romantically, we were friends from early on in high school, we're like brother and sister. And she's very kick-ass and entrepreneurial, and she's basically, at the time, she was like an area manager for a rental car company. She was only 21, 22 years old. And her father actually was a very successful businessman. And she said to me, she goes, look, don't get upset. Get your job back, work hard, don't upset anybody, and then just start your own business. She goes, you're going to start.
Great advice.
So I did. I went back. I worked my ass off. I basically made no trouble. And then an interesting situation occurred where one of the directors in Sydney basically had an altercation because the company became very political, and he got kicked out. And I only met this guy once for 30 seconds, but obviously had a reputation. He called me and he goes, hey, I've been kicked out of the company. Do you want to start a business with me? And I said, okay. And anyway, I started the business with him, and it was great because I learnt a lot from him. But interestingly enough, if ever you do the Performia training, is what you call a spiky balloon. So his whole mission was to destroy the company that kicked him out. And and he was such an evil operator, but he was also very competent. And I learned a lot from him. One, how evil works. And secondly, how to basically service your customer and some very technical things. But basically 4 years later, I had to basically have a whole situation and get rid of this guy. And so the business grew to about 150 staff from when I started in 1992. We got Coles and Woolworths as clients. We'd opened up in Queensland, and we started off in Sydney and Melbourne, added on Queensland, added on Albury. We were doing work all over the country. It was an amazing rocket ride. There was no internet, didn't know anything about computers. It's like, I remember trying to work out how to do my accounts, and I went to a newsagent and bought what's called a Kalamazoo accounting system, which is this literally huge general ledger, and you write all your things on, and then you rip off the page at the bottom. It's this big with all your numbers, and so that taught me accounting. And so I had to learn everything from scratch because I was just a tradesman. And but it was very successful until the point of which I didn't have direct contact with everyone. So above about 30 people, I had to start putting middle managers on, and didn't have proper systems in place, and just simple things like getting invoices out. And I had staff were hiding hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of invoices just because they were too tough to get invoiced. And
oh wow,
yeah, so it became a real mess. And and people say you grow too fast. It's not the true way to look at something. I think the true way to look at growth is like you got to grow as fast as the people you bring on that are on board, like really on board for the program. If you've got the right people, you can grow as fast as you want because they'll take responsibility. They'll put their hand up when they're struggling. They won't try and hide things. They'll admit when something's not going right. But we grew fast with a lot of the wrong sort of people. I was hiring celebrities from the industry rather than someone that was known. He was like the general manager of this or that, or he came from this big company. I'm going, great, I need that person. And it's sort of the traditional way, hire for this, how good someone looks or what their reputation is.
It's also kind of like listening to what other people are saying, and it's like Chinese whispers. It like grows into, something bigger than what it is, and you go, I've got to have them.
And what's interesting is I was also not listening to people. Like my biggest client was Coles, and their engineering manager I became close to, and was good for business, but he's also an unbelievably great guy. You know, he's very religious and he really cared. I was about the same age as his son, and his son had died. So he sort of, but I hired a new general manager from our competitor, and this guy, his name was Don Griffith, beautiful guy. He calls me and goes, "Hey Gareth, I just want to let you know that this person you're hiring, he's not really your business type of person." Mm-hmm. And I just brushed it off. It's like I didn't want to listen to it. I was into empire building and I was into like looking important.
Arrogance, maybe.
Yeah, I'd never failed at anything. You know, I'm now 26 years old and I was, you know, hitting 80 staff, and it's, you know, I was always the smartest person in the room in my mind. Mm-hmm. And but that absolutely wasn't the case. There's so many, even the dumbest person has got something you can learn from them. And so the whole thing came crashing down in about 1999. It's like we ran out of money. It's like we were hemorrhaging, you know, $1 million a year, and we couldn't sustain it. So we had to do a lot of adjustments fast. And it was an adventurous time. Had to bring a lot of people on board. We scraped our way through. It was a tough 3-4 years, and then hit 2005, and I finally had something to sell and get out of it. And that's when I found Performia. And so just as had basically found someone to sell, I met Martin Runau. I met him through a seminar, and I saw this seminar, the first 20 minutes he presented, and I go, oh my God, I know exactly the source of every problem I've had in my business. And I went and spoke to him afterwards, and, you know, we ended up having dinner, and I didn't know that he was actually roaming around Australia looking for someone to start performing in Australia. So pretty much that night we'd penciled something to go, let's do it. And so yeah, it's 15, was it 15? It was 2005 I met him. So it's 19 years ago. Yeah. And so yeah, since then we've rolled out Performia in Australia and China and started an office in Japan. And so, and then I finally go, I want to use these tools myself. So then I built another refrigeration / air conditioning business using these tools, and it's just chalk and cheese. It's like it's nearly too much fun and too good to be true.
I love your story. And look, you've touched on this, and any business that's growing needs to build a team, you know, on that growth journey. It doesn't matter what size they are, you know, so growing businesses need that. But I feel that not all businesses have an equal level of interest or put an equal level of effort into the importance of building that team, that great team.
Yep.
What do you put that down to?
Look, I know from experience, you know, in my 20s when I started my business, I was, my experience with people back then was as a site manager working for somebody else, doing and putting refrigeration into supermarkets. Quite often my boss, Pat, would call me and go, hey, we don't have enough people. You got any friends that you can work with, that you can call up and work with? So he just relied on that. I was young and I would just say yes to everything. Mm-hmm. So one job, all the other site managers would have like 3-4 guys. You know, Pat would send me out by myself and then go, oh, can you find some people? And so I'd just ring my mates and my cousins, and they had no technical no nothing. And I would actually very quickly make them super productive. And I could still pump out jobs with unskilled labour that my boss was probably paying a quarter of the money to than the others. And I could still pump out 3 times more work a year. So when I went into business for myself, that was my thing. It's like I can just hire anyone and make them productive. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't have the concept that people wouldn't want to be on board, or that they did something else, or that they needed others to make them productive, because, you know, you don't notice when, like, I was in this really productive team and then I'm running my own teams. I didn't know what the other side of the coin was. And then, and so
you think everyone has the same intention as you, if you're a good operator yourself.
Yeah. And I never even considered that it was important. I could just if someone had a pulse and could move their arms, it was pretty much, that's fine. Then when things aren't going quite right, and now that makes you super busy. And so then you can get so busy putting out fires and sorting things, and then you start to share your stories with other people, and they tell you they have the same stories, and it becomes the agreement that people are problems. You know, you know, it's this generation of that, or that person's bad. It's like, it's always that way, and, you know, and so you start to not even think that it's a problem you can solve or you should solve. And so that's why it's just so easy to just have this, like, I've got to read a resume, I meet someone, and if they feel like I can connect with them, or they seem like they're a good guy or they're a good girl or whatever, I'll just hire them, and everything else will be okay. And I learned the hard way. I literally cost me millions and millions of dollars, basically having all those wrong assumptions. And so I really get why 90% I would believe of managers and business owners feel that firstly, there's not a problem, and secondly, if there is a problem, there's nothing you can do about it.
It's normal. It's the normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's come from a bit of a lack of awareness of that it's important, but also that it is possible to build that amazing team so you don't have all those challenges.
Yeah. And it's probably even got worse in the last 10 years. It's like because there's too many people make money out of recruitment. They make money out of people leaving your company, and so you've got like, for instance, Seek. We pay them as employers a lot of money. Pretty much every job ad costs the same as a whole website. But they don't market to us. Like, as Performia, we're big customers of Seek, but I don't feel like we're their customer. I don't feel like they come around and go, thanks for spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with us every year. But what they do is they market to candidates. They run ads on TV about, you should change job and have a better life.
Actually, on that topic, I did get a reach out from them to say, hey, thanks for spending so much with us. We're actually putting someone even more dedicated on your account to service you.
Nice.
So they contact us for education and, go, hey, do you want to come to this? We don't really go, but they're like, at least the service is good. Yeah. Customer service is really good.
That's nice. But it's like, I can't see them anything other than an enemy to business because, they've identified that the more people move jobs, the more money they make, and they push that narrative. They basically take statistics and skew them to make us as bosses feel it's okay that if someone stays 2 years, that's the norm. But it's actually not. If we'd have to check these statistics. But I think I sent you a little email on this. That the actual Australian Bureau of Statistics, the average time in a job in Australia, I think, is 8 years. And yet, if you actually asked any business owner, what do you think the average is in Australia? They'll tell you 2. And that's
or they're happy if someone stays 2 to 3 years. They go, that's good. If they can just stay that long.
Yeah. But it's, of course, there's a small part of the market that moves a lot. The younger people move jobs more. But it's like, now that I've been, I'm 40, this is my 40th year working full time. That means that I'm up to my 34th year of being in business. And I've got staff members like, you're my second longest staff member, but my longest ever full-time staff member.
Megan?
Yeah, Megan is longer. Well, actually, Anthony's probably longer than you as well, but he was my staff member and then he became my business partner. As you start to see as you get older, how long people will stay with you.
And the more top producing, top performer they are, the longer they last too.
Absolutely.
Because A, they move up through the company or they grow their contribution, responsibilities. And B, if the company is good, they look after that person.
Absolutely,
so it's like that person is not going to leave the company because of money and benefits and conditions and better things. And, example one is like we have so many examples of candidates we've helped companies hire in the last sort of 15, 16 years that are still with the business. They started off in like, lower level role and then became client services, ops manager, CEO, and I'm in contact with them. And then now they're our contact, and it's so beautiful and it's such a pleasure to see that transition. And just goes to show it's like, they easily clocking 10 plus years.
Yeah, you're right. I've never actually even thought about how much fun would it be to go back through all those and see how many of them have stuck.
Well, I'm in contact with quite a few of them. So they're fantastic.
Yeah, well, I know that some are still around that I was involved in hiring in, and I probably haven't been involved in assisted recruitments with Performia for over 12 years.
So now I want to talk about Moneyball. So we both know this.
Oh, yeah, my favourite show.
Yeah, now you can answer the question. And obviously this is based on the true story of the Oakland A's baseball team and the general manager, Billy Beane, and what he was able to achieve. Had a shoestring of a budget, about $40 million, and he had to assemble a team fit enough to go, for championships, and compared to, New York Yankees that I think had like $26 million to do the same.
Yep.
So it's and he was able to achieve pretty incredible success by changing his strategy of how he built this team. And, I think they went on to win like 20 consecutive games, which was unbelievable at the time, especially given that budget. And they really transformed the game, didn't they?
Yes. Not just their game. I mean, if you look at that whole recruitment system, it's like, what they call it, scouting system. It's like they changed it in so many sports. Like if you even look back in Australian sport, like the Hawthorn and Geelong football clubs were two of the first clubs to adopt that. And especially Geelong, it's like just from that change in their strategy, it's like they went through to probably have the most successful 20 years of any AFL club over the last 20 years. So it changed a lot of sports. And, when I first heard about this and read the book, saw the movie, it was obviously amazing because it was exactly, I wouldn't say exactly, but it's very similar to the strategies we have in Performia. But, it also shows you what's possible. It's, here you are, like you've got, your competitors got 4 times the budget you have to go out and recruit the best talent. But at the end of the first year, with Billy Beane basically just adopting a different way of looking at people, he was able to basically match the same amount of wins. I can't remember exactly, but a similar amount of wins with his $40 million budget to New York Yankees $140 million. So anything's possible, and I've seen this over my career too. Now it's like what I used to achieve, say per hour or with margins and everything in construction that I thought was really good and towards the limit. We're 4 times beyond that just because we chip away and just basically go, this is all I have, what can I do with it? And, the owner of the Oakland A's, he told Billy Beane when he took on the job, he goes, I only have $40 million. Don't come back to me for money. I don't have any more. You've got to make this work. So he basically sat down with this $40 million and he realised, in the book he explains this really well, but he realised that it's like the scouting system or the recruitment they were doing in baseball didn't work because they were looking for individual skills and how good a person was at those individual skills. And he was selected personally as the number 1 draft pick, knowing that there's like 100 players that were much better than him. And so when he finally had a pretty crappy career, which he expected, and then became the team manager, he goes, the first thing I need to change is what I know is broken, is the way we're recruiting. And, if you got to watch the movie, you haven't seen it, or even better, read the book, because it just gives you that, like, let me look at this a bit differently. And this is exactly, when I saw the movie and already doing Performia, I go, oh my God, this is exactly.
It's our performance hiring way, which we've been
it's
doing
our
for
performance
the last
hiring.
20
It's like,
years.
stop looking at stop looking at the regular things we look at when we recruit, which is what all our competitors are doing. Let's look at people from a perspective of like, what's the most important thing I need to know about someone before I can even consider them? And it's like you can basically not only widen your hiring pool and make your hiring so much easier, but you can just have the most amazing people come into your business and create results that you just never thought were possible. And that's where I started my career, this group of 10 of us that could do 4 or 5 times the amount of work of our competitors, not even knowing that we're already, probably we may have been the best, most productive commercial refrigeration group on the planet. We wouldn't know because we don't play sport. But if it was a sport,
it can be so much the same, isn't it? Like sport and business. Why not? Everything is so transferable.
There's absolutely no difference. And the only there are obvious differences because most people play sport, they get paid for it. In fact, they pay money to play.
Hey, I play lacrosse. No one pays me.
Yeah, well, you pay. You got to pay money. You got to pay for insurance and annual fee and donate money to keep the club running. But there's it's how business should be. Like people should be going to work. I feel like I haven't done this. I should do it just to try. But I feel like I should be able to tell my team, hey, we're out of money for 3 months. I can't pay anybody, but I just need you to keep working. And I feel like everyone on my team would say, okay, let me work it out. I'll try and work it out. Because they don't come to work. The number one priority at coming to work is not for money. It's like they come because it's like I try and create a playing field, where they feel like they know if they're winning or losing, and they high-fiving, and they get accoladed. They're part of they know what's going on. We keep them informed, and I really want them to feel like it's a weekend team sport. It's a celebration, and of course, enjoying weekend sport means you got to train hard and sweat. You got to go in and take some knocks for the team. You've got to maybe lose more often than you win, and the wins feel great because you've also enjoyed endure the losses. And as a manager, are you a manager or are you a coach? And as the team manager or general manager, it's like then you got to make sure you got the right coaches, which are the managers, and then you should have your scouts, which is your HR department. So it's all the same rules.
Yeah, but you can't really do that. You can't treat your business as a sports team if you can't hire, if you don't know how to select and attract and bring in the right people, because everything will fall flat. Because as soon as you can't do that, you'll be stuck with what you have, and you'll be like, oh no, I've got to tolerate that now, or like, oh no, I can't correct them because they might leave, or and then you move away from that game's culture.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing with voluntary, amateur sport. People attend because they want to go.
Yeah.
They want the camaraderie. They want to contribute and try and win. And quite often it happens even in professional sport where you'll get someone has played in 6 championship teams in a row, and then they go to the bottom team because they've run out of challenge. So they go, I'll take a pay cut. Just pay me half the amount. I'll come into your team, because they want to now go through the whole fun of losing, and win, lose, win, lose, win, and then might take them 4 or 5 years, and then they help that team become a champion again. And the difference in the workplace is, everybody has to earn a living. It's like we have. Money is our pay to survive. And so if you can't live off social security and you feel like, I have to get a job. And so now you're not there so much to contribute. You're there because you have to survive. You have to basically pay some bills. And so you can end up with people in your workplace that aren't interested in all and how the business goes, or if others are doing better or worse. They're not there voluntarily. They're there because society forces them to be there. And so when you're building your own team within your business, you can't just take anyone that comes and says, I want to work for you. You got to take the people that are engaged. They feel something about the purpose of the product or service you're delivering, and they like to see other people do well. It's no different, to someone that comes and voluntarily plays sport. And that's why it's a good sign too. If someone has played volunteer sport or are volunteering to play amateur sport, it can be a good sign that at least they work within a team for the fun of working within a team, rather than just being there in a team because they have to, make money and pay their bills.
And it comes back to that rapid fire question of like, money or happiness. It's like they're not, it's like, it's actually that sense of fulfillment. And like, where am I going to get more fulfillment, and how am I going to get that?
Yep.
Is it through achieving something I also didn't think was possible, or I didn't know I could achieve before, and now I can?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the money will come, right?
It does. And, if I look back over the 40 years of people I've known and people that have worked for me, it's like it's nearly one for one of the people that were never really asked you for a pay rise, or, never were concerned about their conditions. They're generally, they're all the ones that are basically, have done the best financially. They've got into the area of their life where they basically have their financial and work freedom, and there wasn't even something they were concentrating on or really wanted. It just fell in their lap because, along the way they reaped the rewards of what they sowed.
And I think overall, like coming back to Moneyball, it really comes down to thinking differently, and not going with the flow of this is the usual way and everyone else does it, because everyone could be doing the wrong thing. And, my favorite quote from Billy Bean is when he goes, the problem we're trying to solve is there's rich teams, and then there's poor teams, and then there's 50 feet of crap. Yeah. And it's us. It's an unfair game. We've got to think differently. I love that quote.
Yeah. No, look, it's amazing. And look, that's why even when you're doing, one of the hardest things, like let's look at this in reverse. You're the New York Yankees and you've got everything, It's like, I don't know a lot about baseball, so I can't tell you how good or bad they really are. But I get that they're pretty successful. Obviously, they have a lot of sponsors. They get a lot of money. They probably were number one many times, but remaining number one can be tough. And it's so
Everyone's
easy.
after that position.
Yeah, and it's so easy just to keep throwing money at something to make it work. I mean, our government is renowned for it. It's like if something's wrong, like, okay, we'll just announce more money for it. And then 2 years later, you look at it, it got worse. So what they do, throw more money at it and make it worse. And so having more money, money solves nothing.
It's how you spend it.
It's how creative you are.
Yes.
And, the more money you've got, the less creative you need to be. When you have nothing, you hear about people how they start a business and 5 years later
They come from another country or migrant with
Yeah.
like $10 in their
That's it. They
pocket.
didn't-
And then now you're looking at them going, how?
That's it. And they were just creative. And so money can dull creativity, you know what I'm saying? and that's why if you go into the corporate sector, it's like it can be quite dull. When you go into a small business, it's like it can be much more creative. And that's why, that book, what's it called? Small Giants. Mm-hmm. It describes, it's probably 20 years old now, that book, but it describes, these small businesses that are just, they're the best in their industry. They might only have 50 or 100 staff, but the author found them and found how amazing they were. And if you extrapolate out their numbers, some of these businesses were basically turning over 1/100th of their competitor and making more profit. And so there's, in small business, there's no limits to how creative you can be, how you can get yourself out of it, how nimble and how quickly you can change markets and do different
Sometimes
things.
that's also, I personally find that more fun.
Yeah.
Because it's like necessity
Yep.
to be more creative and go, how can I achieve more with less?
Yeah. And you got to be careful too. That it can work against you sometimes, because when things are all going well and you should change nothing,
That's true.
entrepreneurs just go, oh, now what can I change?
Yeah.
So it's good to know yourself and go, am I changing something that's actually going all right? Or am I being impatient and I just got to give it a bit more time? Because I've been so guilty of doing those sort of things. Something works so well, I was going, how can I make it better, when I should leave it alone or make the changes much more incremental? And that was my problem when I was hitting 150 staff. It's like running that sort of business, you can't run it on just this desire to have fires to put out.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's
small business, very small thinking. And, I've learnt my limit now. I like businesses running businesses between 30 to 50 where I can be involved and do the things I want. It gives me freedom because there's enough depth there, but I'm not relying a lot on middle management and not knowing who's working for me. It's not a big business. It's not exciting for me. If I grow a big business, then I'll have to put a manager in and hand it over.
Yeah. And I think one of the challenges or issues which, happened in Moneyball and also in business, it can happen too, is if you measure the wrong things. And because if you measure the wrong things, whether it's in your hiring or your existing people, it can lead you down the wrong track.
Yeah.
So, like in Moneyball, the way the scouts were, picking new players was, what was it? There was 4 things.
Yeah, how far they could hit the ball, how far they could throw the ball, how fast they could run 100 yards.
Yeah,
and
how much they can hit,
how
how power.
chiseled they were. They had to have the baseball look.
Very important. Factor 101.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That was actually real. Like, imagine saying that now. Yeah, sorry, it's like your chin's a little bit
You're
unchiseled.
almost perfect, but your hair wasn't flowing in the right direction.
Yeah, it was. I don't know for sure it was real, but that's in the book. He talks about that was one of the 4 factors.
Because they were picking people out of college,
Yeah.
out of school, college, or early in their career. So they had to predict, the future of this person, and they were picking these things. And then, Billy Bean, he changed this and he said, no, we've got to be looking at the on-base percentage.
Yep.
And they kept saying, gets on base, he gets on base, they're like, but he doesn't have it, but he gets on base, and just staying laser sharp on this one key metric, because he worked out if you can do this, means you're creating opportunities and you're on the right track to achieve the right outcomes, the right results.
Yep.
So doing that kept them focused on what's most important and allowed them to now find people that were undervalued, looked like misfits. They said, oh, that guy throws funny, or he doesn't look right. And it's like, yeah, but look at his stats. Look at the results he's getting.
Yeah, and that's how I hired in the 90s, and I think that's how 90% of hiring happens now. It's the same. It's like, how fast someone can hit the ball is like, well, what's their qualification? You know, how fast they can run 100 yards. That's like how much experience do they have? And of course, you know, we constantly hire people that look and feel right. And it's just, you know, I learned it's just absolutely, totally wrong way to do it. And, you know, when you actually focus on the things that matter, like actually what are the results? What's the potential for this person to contribute to the business more than they need to take from it? You know, that's the key, you know, and then you do end up sometimes with a company, people that look like misfits, or they're dull, you know, or you go, how can this be? You don't have any training in this area, but you're so good at it. And, you know, it makes all the difference. Makes a wild amount of difference. And Billy Bean proved it. And we prove it constantly. Well, I prove it personally constantly with the way I hire and the way our clients in Performia are hiring now.
And it's so important to be able to spot people like that, because one of the big issues that I see in many industries that they're hiring is they go, no one's out there. No one can, there's just nobody out there, and it's just my industry, and we're all struggling and doing, you know, facing the same challenges. And it's like, yeah, well, you're all doing it the same way. So you're all doing the traditional way. So you all end up seeing the same people, and then you think there is nobody out there.
Yep.
And then this also pushes up the wages, makes it more expensive, whilst meanwhile there's all these other people that are actually fantastic, but they just don't get an interview.
Yeah.
And it's being able to spot those people, you can actually create so many more opportunities in the business, help the person that actually really deserves the chance. And that's one thing I'm really passionate about because at Performia is that give the opportunity to the people who really deserve it. Because the moment you don't, and you give it to someone who faked it, pretended, didn't deserve it, didn't get there because of really who they were and just how good of an acting they did, you know, it's not fair.
Yep.
You know?
No, absolutely. If you look at that fourth factor in baseball, like the chiseled look, you know, you could nearly say that's racist, because obviously only certain races are going to have that certain look. And, you know, the way we hire, like, we have to discriminate. You can't hire without discriminating. But the only correct discrimination is actually, you know, has to be on merit. If, you know, so you can only discriminate by how much a person is going to contribute to your business or not contribute. And so it's okay to discriminate and say, we don't want to hire this person because we don't feel that maybe they won't. We feel, or we know with some science that they can't contribute. Or we also know with some science that they're not going to fit the job so well. So even if they can contribute, they're not going to enjoy the workplace. And they're the only two reasons to really discriminate. When we discriminate on, you know, education, qualification, experience, and how a person looks and feels, they're all actually incorrect. And you're saying, I'm only going to take people that have got this qualification, even though it's not required for any statutory or insurance reason. It's like, well, why should someone that has the opportunity to go to university, why should they only be considered for the job? And then if someone sits down and, you know, they look and feel right, well, how's that right? Just because a person doesn't dress the way you want, or they're a different weight to what you expect, or, you know, there's something different about them, it's like, that's not fair to not hire them. So, you know, if you really hire on merit, I feel it's the only true and honest discrimination we can apply. And, you know, hopefully in society we can continue with that discrimination, because that's what builds the society. And it's the last honest and true discrimination we can use. So everything else I find we shouldn't be using.
That's right. It's like some of those other things to look at. We're not saying don't look at personality or experience. They're important too, but get the priority right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Do you think some people are irreplaceable in business?
No, everyone's replaceable. It's unfortunately sometimes you think that you can't replace yourself, and that, you know, that traps you. And on the other side, if you have someone you think is irreplaceable, that's a trap as well. And quite often, I've found in my experience, the people I've thought were irreplaceable were also
the ones to replace.
The ones to replace. They sort of built. It's like they're experts in making themselves feel irreplaceable. And you tend to find when they do leave, they were hiding things. They were keeping, you know, communication lines secret. They were, they wouldn't share their contacts, and because they feel like I'm not really good enough. I need to make myself look better, and so
it's a survival mechanism, isn't it?
Yeah,
like don't improve your performance to keep your job and move up the ladder, but act it out.
Yeah, and to the point now where I have a policy that if I feel like I'm relying on someone, it's like I've got to really double check. Am I really relying on this person because they're so productive and doing so well, or am I relying on this person because they're making themselves valuable just so that I can't get rid of them?
Yeah,
because the most productive person, even when they decide to leave, they're going to give you enough notice and they're going to work it out and go, look, I'm going to put my notice in. I realise that project finishes then, so I'll finish with the project. Or it's like I want to help hire the new person, or I'm going to write up and try and hand everything over. That's what good productive people do.
That's definitely one thing I look at when I'm hiring. Is if they go, oh no problem, I can start within a week. I'm more concerned saying, what are you going to do in your current business? How are you going to help them out? And if they have no care factor, well, that's a red flag.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, when we're done general manager hirings, it's like, can we do a reference sheet with your current employer? Oh, no, I haven't told them.
Oh.
You go, but you're the general manager and you're out looking for a job and the current company doesn't know.
Yeah.
Because, a good general manager will be leaving a job because they've sort of completed all their missions and handled everything, and now it's sort of maybe the job's boring for them or it's whatever it might be, but they've spoken to the owners or the board and they're going, I think my time's done. I'm going to start looking for a job. I'll start recruiting a new person.
That's the best sign. Best
at
flow.
that level, yeah. I mean, if it's someone doing customer service and they're 21 years old, it makes sense. But the more senior, the more responsibility, the more that company would cost that company to replace them, the more you need them to be taking responsibility.
Yep. So I feel like this story of Moneyball's been around a long time. We've been around a long time, but companies are still going through and building their team, hiring a bit blind.
Yep.
And I think, building that championship team is not for everybody. Some people really want it.
Yep.
Some people are okay to have a good team, and that's okay too. But to build a championship team, what do you think are the key steps, the key ingredients, the key things for a business owner to really get right as they grow their business?
Well, there's you sort of asked two questions there, and the first one you said like Moneyball's been around and Performia's been around a long time, but it's sort of I would guess that 97% of businesses still hire like traditional ways, and I think there's a good reason for that, and there's a few of them. Like one of them, like I said, you get companies like Seek and the HR industry. They want to make themselves valuable, so they put narratives out there that like aren't necessarily true and make us feel like that everything is normal to go through the pain we do with staff sometimes. Also, if you look at marketing in the last 40, 50 years, marketing has become so sophisticated, and what it's I think it's caused us to do is take our eye off sometimes what the real value of things is. And that's basically the real value, you could say, is when you look at the merit of something. And, for instance, I love nice cars. I buy a car that costs 10 times more than the same car can do exactly the same thing. That's because of marketing. And we buy, labelled clothes. And so we're not, I think with marketing being so good, we're becoming less savvy at looking at value. And that causes us to do it in our business as well. And, we have a lot more demands on us as employers as well, because we're being educated and told to be more inclusive and all these sorts. So it makes it harder to check real value. And so that makes it for a lot of businesses to even start making the decision to go, can I go to a next level? They haven't looked at or discovered there's a new level. And then to want to go to that next level, it's no different with sport. Most people that play sport, they play at volunteer level, as in amateur level. And then in that, some people, the coach and the team, they just it's for a social gathering. They get together and they train a little bit and then have some, they get and eat pies and have a beer. And then when they get on the field and they lose every match, they don't really care because they get together and they have a barbecue afterwards. And it's totally fine for them. And good on them for getting together and they get out and they run around a little bit. And it's the same in business. Some people, they run a business and that's all they want. You know, they may be doing okay. They make good money, and it's not a big deal for them whether they grow their business or whether they have the best of the best. And then in sport, you have your absolute champions. You know, if you look at, you know, soccer and Formula One and, you know, Olympics and those sorts of things, some people strive to get there. And some people in business, that's what they want. And, you know, if you're into that constant improvement, if you're that person that's willing to look 2-3 years into the future and you start something today and you go, in 3 years, I know I can get there and I'm going to chip away at it, then, you know, you will go down this path of, you know, using a business like Performia to go, that part of it is very key and important. And you'll also get that it's no magic pill. There's not magic pills. Sometimes you do change something and minor and it doubles your margin. And, you know, you can say they're a magic pill, but they're not a lot of them around it. I find in business is you chip at every angle, chip at getting your margin up, you chip at getting your overheads down a bit, you chip at getting your productivity up a bit. It's chip.
Nothing great came easy.
Yeah, but sometimes if you chip away at enough things in a year, you can improve. You can. I've doubled my profit just by chipping and feeling like I did the smallest things, but I chipped at every little angle. And I didn't go for any great leaps, but then I got a great leap in the profit. And, you know, one of the easiest places to chip away at is to just, you know, look at how you're bringing people into your business and decide that, you know what, I can have everybody on board. I can have that same team that I had when I was 15 and started working and didn't know it. That it's taken me that whole revolution to come back 30 years later and go, I've just got to build that. And now I have found the tools to do it.
That's right. You don't have to go through trial and error, guessing,
Yeah.
you know, random experiences. Now there's science you can put in place.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just like anything. It's usually, you know, the way most people are doing it is just sort of something that fell together and became sort of the agreed way. And then, you know, quite often someone just changes it and reverses it and it turns out to be the proper way. You know, even something as crazy as Galileo, like, you know, the planet thought the world was flat and that everything revolved around our flat planet. You know, this guy comes in and goes, I don't think so. It's like, from what I'm looking at, I think the world might be a ball and I think we actually move. And of course they threw him in jail because, I mean, how crazy could he be?
Yep. I think the message today is like challenge things, you know, especially if someone's telling you, no, it can't be done.
Yeah.
This is the usual, you know, go and look at it at least for yourself. You know, don't just accept it.
Yeah. And look, there's one thing that comes with experience is basically seeing more and more of what's possible and seeing cycles and seeing how you believe something for so long and it wasn't true. And to some degree, I see more of what things that we get told aren't true because marketing has become so powerful, and marketing can happen at such huge levels now, you know, with social media, and we can get infiltrated in so many places that it's like, it's so easy to stop looking and, you know, but we've always got to look, you know, their old term, look, don't listen.
Yep.
You got to look and try things, but it all looking starts with, like, you know, having some sort of constant improvement program and challenging yourself, just minorly challenging yourself, so a little bit better margin, a little bit higher sales, a little bit lower operating costs, a little bit this, a little bit that. And then, you know, those little challenges, you know, they're easier to win and they create a big difference.
Perfect. Gareth, thanks for the chat today. And thank you to everyone who's listened or watched this episode today with us. I hope you got some inspiration out of the conversation. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the feedbacks and we'll answer them for you in the next video or article. Thank you. Thanks, Gareth.
Thanks, Negar.